Hello, everyone, and welcome to the second episode of Amethyst Weekly. I am joined today by Alex Fox Johnson and Zach Livingstone. Um, it is the same format as last week, thankfully. We have a third of the amount of races to cover, so hopefully this should be up a little bit quicker. Um, and yeah, coming into this week, we had the inaugural Amethyst Monaco Grand Prix, a very interesting circuit in real life due to its very unique layouts in terms of how thin it is, which caused, as expected, a lot of concern upon its announcement in the pre-season stream all the way back in December. As round four of the Amethyst season, there is still a lot up for grabs up and down the grid. There's a lot of redemption arcs that needed to be started. Some went well, others didn't exactly go to plan, and we'll get into that very soon. Handing it over to Alex Fox Johnson to cover Tier 1.
Hello, yeah, thank you for Williams. So starting off with Tier 1, pretty uneventful race, if it must be said. Only, I believe it was 10 drivers attending, may have been 11.
I think it
Um,
was 10, yeah.
yeah, so not many drivers joining that, of course. So it led for, it meant a pretty boring race, if I'm honest. But again, like you said, a lot of redemption arcs that needed to be covered, and we are going to do so. So, starting off with Casper's, actually, I believe he went into the weekend leading, if I'm not mistaken, and he retained that lead above myself due to my gross incompetence. Uh, But yeah, he drove a fantastic race, and it must be said, he was dominant all weekend. He was denied fastest lap by myself, which meant he didn't quite get the Grand Slam, but he did get pole, and he did win the race after leading every single lap, which was very impressive. Um, and of course, his teammate Alex Schreimakers, he did very, very well himself. He finished, I believe it was P4, just off the podium. And he said himself he deserved P3. I would completely agree with that. He drove a fantastic race against, I believe it was Anthony, if I'm not mistaken. And I think he fully deserved the position he ended in. Um, Moving on to Anthony, he's really sparked up his performances recently, making a move to Williams mid-season, I believe it was, after the first or second round. I think it was after Imola actually. He made that move to Williams, and since then it just looks like his performance is upped a little bit, and he's currently on pace with the front runners. So we're seeing him fighting for a podium every single week, and sometimes the win.
Yeah, I've noticed he's always been right up there. He's kind of never really fallen off the back. He had a very good time over in Monaco. Um, Other thing to note, we saw, I think it was Rolf van Loon step up for his Alpine team to come up from tier two and then kind of get points in your first like tier one race. I think that was a very good job from him. Um,
Yeah, it
I,
must be said he did not do too badly. I said especially for a first time at Monaco,
mm,
first time in Tier 1 to race at Monaco. He's got some cojones. It must be said. Um, and I think for his first race, it may have not been the result he was looking for, but nonetheless, he still did very, very well to retain that. And I also believe over the course of the Monaco weekend, there were no DNFs, if
in
I'm
tier
not
one,
mistaken, in Tier 1. And we're still waiting on a shoey from Mr. Martin
we
because of
are.
that.
Did Skalski do his?
Skalski, I don't think he did his, no. He's waiting on Luke Martin as well. So Luke Martin letting everyone down.
This is why I'm just such a better team principal. Anyway, anything else to cover on tier one?
I don't think so. I mean, actually, yes. Uh, if you look at what's his name, Gotting,
Mm.
also known as No Name in the community, if you're not too familiar with him. Um, he's a fantastic driver, got a lot of potential, and clearly quite a lot of skill. because we're seeing him battle for the win and the lead every single weekend at the moment, and it's really impressive. Unfortunately, again due to my gross incompetence, Gotting was out of the race because we don't talk about that. But let's just say I ended in the wall. He ended in the wall further. So that dropped him down the order, and I think he could have well challenged for the lead of the race. Obviously, very difficult track to overtake, as you said yourself.
Yeah.
So it would have been a difficulty to get past Casper's, especially. But I think he would have had that opportunity had it come.
So heading into tier 2, we obviously, talking earlier about, track very thin, and therefore overtakes are going to be very hard and going to have to be timed very well, set up over a course of many laps. Unfortunately, tier 2 didn't quite get this memo, or just completely forgot how to drive, because we saw a grand total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I think that's 8 DNS we saw throughout tier 2 Monaco. Multiple of which coming from a lot of different incidents. I think it was probably the more predictable ending of the Monaco Grand Prix. Maybe not with just as many DNFs, given how we did in Baku last season. That was a spirited time. 6 people finishing that race for the uninitiated. We saw a very interesting podium in the form of Mans Fountainberg. I believe was his second race for McLaren, picking up the top step of the podium. A great result for the McLaren team, especially after that very dominant display they had in Tier 3 Portimao. He was then followed by Ferrari team principal Marco Mangano, 18 seconds behind, with current reigning champion Vlad Rosu coming home in P3 to pick up his first podium of the season here in Monaco, followed then by Hugendorn, Harris, Skalski, Marquinia, Swan, Bean. Despite Bean actually DNFing, he still finished ahead of Much, I think that is, in that Red Bull, if I'm not mistaken, to pick up points on debut, if I'm not mistaken. So very good for him. Then followed by Houveniers. It was a race plagued by a lot of incidents. Simon Ure unfortunately woke up to a lot of very angry letters from drivers up and down the Tier 2 grid. We saw Nick Mangano make his debut for Aston Martin, where he was in quite a lofty P5, P6 territory before an untimely incident with the Alfa Romeo driver at the notorious left-hand hairpin throughout Sector 2, which has been a heated subject of debate amongst the FIA, as they're yet to release that ticket, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe they've reached a verdict on it. I don't know. We're recording this the day before Tier 3 Silverstone, so this is very well organised. And we saw some very nice performances, especially from the likes of Sergio Marquinhos, who used to drive in Tier 1 actually for Haas. Now he stepped down to a Tier 2 reserve due to technical problems getting a new wheel with faulty pedals. And he did finish at a very nice P7, which must have been very good points for the AlphaTauri that he was driving in. Instead of no, he was driving in a Haas. Apologies, he was driving in an AlphaTauri in Portimao, bringing in some very much needed points for Haas due to the absence of both their drivers, as they're having a little meet up in London. Must have been a rather spiffing time for them to miss such an incredible race, and it was a very. I must say, it was the most predictable format of the Monaco Grand Prix. If we had to guess what type of ending we would have gotten from a Monaco race, I think this is right up there. And we saw just an utter amount of just pure carnage. I don't think the intermediate conditions throughout the entire length of the race helped whatsoever, especially those who did minimal or no practice for the wet, considering that it's Monaco. They probably should have put a few laps in at least. I know I didn't, unfortunately, and I bent the wall in like lap 22. And it was a very nice day just to see the grid shaking up a little bit and seeing the likes of Fountainberg get that win to jump up to P10 in the standings. Currently, it's actually Casper's. Hang on, this is after Silverstone. I should shut up. And yeah, it was just a very good race to just kind of see what would happen. Also, I'd like to point out, despite the 8 DNFs, there was not a single safety car in Tier 2.
That was similar in Tier 3.
which we'll get into now with Zach Livingstone.
Thank you very much. We had quite a. I would say I wouldn't even know how to describe this race because I literally did not see any of it. I was just sat at the front, really. But we'll start with qualifying. Kosev got I believe, his maiden pole position in Amethyst, putting it P1, 1/10 ahead of Hannestad in P2, the Alpha Tauri, and myself in P3. Interestingly, there was only 1,000th between my time and Hannestad's time, and Sargent, the Red Bull, in P4 with Ducker in P5 for Alfa Romeo. On the race start, Hannestad caught lacking, I suppose, or it might have been desync with the lights. I don't know, but he was stationary off the line really, and got caught by about 8 cars. I think he dropped well down the order, but I took P2 from him off the start, and then a few laps later, I overtook Kosev around. I think it was 2 to back, and I really didn't. I didn't look back really. I ended up lapping the field up to P3. I guess just through clean driving, really. I wouldn't, and maybe a little bit of a pace advantage, but
I didn't think clean driving with you was possible.
shut up, man. Kosev had an unfortunate end to his race. He was doing really well.
So did Ducker.
Yeah, Ducker as well. They both had great races. I think up to P2 and P3, but both with race-ending crashes, unfortunately, which we don't like to see here at the This Weekly podcast. We support Alfa Romeo in all their efforts.
I know. Quite an economic crash it was for them this weekend, I must say.
With Kosev heading into the Tier 3 stream to gift subs.
Buying back that DNF money, that is a dead team if I've ever heard of one.
Yeah, I was curious if you guys had any thoughts on the race because I didn't.
Well, as I watched the race and qualifying start to finish, I can pick out what I can remember. WTF1 rated us.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Of all places, Tier 3 Monaco. I must say that is. If I don't think we can put better timing any more accurately than this.
I would also like to mention your driver, Erling Heiker, who qualified P14 and ended up on the podium, which was incredibly impressive.
I think he was 14th after that one with a broken front wing or something.
Even better, mate. Even better. It shows your quality of your driver, who has not had a great season so far. I would say he's
been a bit unfortunate.
Yeah, his highest position being P7 in Bahrain, right?
Yeah. But it's nice to see him back up there, and first podium obviously of the season for Aston Martin.
Yeah.
Which we saw duly rewarded with Oliver McWilliams' shoey.
We had Serveld back on the podium as well.
Oh yes,
season 4. Was it season 4 or season 3? I can't remember. He's a previous champion though.
Season 4. Yeah, it was season 4.
I obviously made the most of the McLaren of Best and the McLaren of Vassilev not being there. Yes.
I think another noteworthy moment was when Luke Martin and Sebastian Zerveld were only a few seconds within each other.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Some
dicey racing from the.
Some cheeky flashbacks were kicking in for some initiated folks, aware with their very personal history on track and off it. Let's not forget.
Yeah, I think
that Luke Martin has gone through is quite sad to see. I think, but he will. I'm sure he will regain his footing. And,
absolutely.
I mean, being his engineer, being his engineer, I can tell you with some confidence that I did nothing but moan at him in the Monaco Grand Prix. And speaking of that, actually,
speaking of Luke Martin, here's our current meme of the week. Title holder. He's had 2 in a row.
I know.
Including this one, meme of the week. We're gonna switch right over to it. Now.
You've got to remember your fucking rear. It's wider than your front,
You've got gonorrhea!
I didn't say gonorrhea. What the fuck have you got?
Hey guys, if you'd like to see your meme on our podcast, Amethyst Weekly Podcast, you could head over to the Amethyst Racing Reddit. Please submit your submission there, and we will carefully consider it and put it into our wonderful podcast that we record every week at the right time.
Absolutely. Do it for us, unpaid children.
Moving on. Shall we talk about Silverstone, guys?
Right.
It definitely
Carry on.
hasn't happened yet, by the way.
Carry on.
Definitely not happened for 2 of the 3 tiers already. I don't actually have the classification on screen, so I actually can't tell you physically what's happened, even though you can go down to.
It hasn't happened yet, mate. It hasn't happened.
Exactly, it hasn't happened.
But if you were to hazard a guess as to who you may end up on the podium, McWilliams for tier 2.
I think we could see a big return from Haas,
Ooh.
certainly from Kvyat.
Yeah.
They'll have had a nice week off away in not Monaco, well, away from Monaco, but in London doing their thing. And it might help them focus a lot more on Silverstone.
Mm.
Do you know what?
Also-
I'm going to hazard a guess, actually, at who wins who's on the podium in Silverstone Tier 1.
Ooh.
I'm taking just a random guess. I'm thinking that Caspers is going to win.
Yeah.
That's a safe
Gosling
choice.
is going to finish P2, 4.755 seconds behind.
That's very
It's just a completely random guess, by the way.
Yeah.
You're like an
Um,
informed
And
man.
then, you know what? I'm thinking third is going to be Peel.
Ooh,
your best friend.
8.155 seconds behind
Great
Caspers.
choice.
Hot diggity dog.
Do you think
Yeah.
there may be a transfer saga brewing as well, guys?
Oh, I'm
Oh, God,
I'm
yes,
not
it could be
sure.
something like that. Oh, yeah. A little bit of mid-season madness. But,
yeah.
but we can't say anything officially until
No.
Silverstone, of
No.
course.
Yeah, we can't actually we don't actually know what's happened yet, so
Yeah,
Yeah.
we're utterly
How-
clueless.
You know what? I'll go next. I reckon it'll be Kelsey Best, the man returning from his 1 week hiatus, taking P1. Then I'm going to say myself, Zachary Livingstone of Ferrari, put myself right there in P2. And you know what? I'll say Luke Martin, the GOAT, will end up in P3 at Silverstone. Thank you.
So you do have a liking for Luke Martin.
I didn't say that. I didn't say that. You know,
Oh, yeah.
that.
All right, I think that'll wrap us up. Unless you gentlemen have anything else you want to disclose.
No, I'm all good.
On that bombshell, I shall bid you lot farewell until next week. This has been Amethyst Weekly, and it's been lovely to have you here. And yeah, see you after Silverstone.